Hello and welcome to Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and I am so happy that all of you are joining us this week for our second episode in 1 week. I'm an overachiever this week. I think the pandemic is making me crazy. We're like in week 8 of lockdown or something like that, and sometimes we just have to make things up. And I did a video this morning to all of my peeps out there. And the video I did was all about how you just have to, show up and try your best every day. That's really all we can give it. And I was telling my beautiful ladies that are going to be my guests today on the show that sometimes, we put ourselves down or we beat ourselves up because we just don't think we got everything done that we wanted to get done that day, or maybe we didn't give the day all that we had. It's okay, because you're going to wake up tomorrow and it's another day, and we're going to try again. And I've had to make a makeshift office in my room. Well, who cares? We have to do what we need to do to be able to take action in the areas that we want to take action in our lives to move forward. That's the thing. It just takes one step. So remember, just try and keep moving forward. We don't want to go backwards, and we don't want to have anxiety of thinking too far into the future of what's going to happen. So just remember to take one step every day. Give it all you've got. Show up. Really show up to be seen in every area of your life, because that's the best example for people around you. And I know many of you are so lucky to have children around you and to have spouses around you and family around you that you can love on every day. And I would give anything to go back to having all my teenagers home right now, believe it or not. So just want to let you guys know there's always two sides to every coin, right? Someone might not enjoy having to homeschool. I kind of wish I was able to homeschool, because it would break up my day and it wouldn't be, so full of work. So again, do the best you can during this time, because that's all you've got, right? So I wanted to welcome my first co-host today is Dr. Carolyn Candido, and she's coming to us all the way out of Honolulu, Hawaii. Horrible place to be quarantined, I'm just saying. Again, two sides to every coin, right? So she's joining us today because she had asked me to come on to a virtual summit that she was doing and be a guest in a guest specialist that she was interviewing amongst all of these doctors. I was very honored, by the way, because I'm not a doctor. And really what we were talking about was how do we age gracefully? Maybe that's why she asked me to come on this show, because of my age, now that I think about it, because I have 11 grandchildren. That's okay. I still love her. And she is one of our members of Lead Up for Women. And of course, we always want to help our members get the word out for any activities that they're doing, book launches that they're doing, summit launches that they're doing. And she's talking about a very important subject with all of these specialists, which is how do we age gracefully, but how do we boost our immune systems, right? How important is that today for us to be boosting our immune system? So Dr. Carolyn Candido, welcome as my co-host today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, go ahead and tell our listeners how they can sign up for this virtual retreat, why you're doing it, and what was your experience with all the interviews that you did.
Yeah, so the Anti-Aging Virtual Retreat is a free 21-day virtual summit where they can learn from experts that are experts in their fields of medicine, acupuncture, chiropractic. So I took on this project for myself, really, to heal myself, because I think a lot of women, they are under stress. I was feeling a lot of fatigue as well as brain fog. I was overweight, and Western medicine didn't have any solutions for me. And I feel like, especially nowadays, like people are disempowered about their health. There's like a lot of choices. They don't know which ones to do to keep healthy, whether it's diet or exercise. So I wanted a simple way where I wanted experts to share their tips on how to be healthy that doesn't take too much time. And in the process of creating this summit, I had my own health challenges that I experienced, which were very for me as a doctor, my biggest fear is getting cancer, getting sick, especially during this corona epidemic. And it was really bizarre. Like as I was going halfway through this interviews, I started having a lot of breast pain, and I was like, oh my God, this is so scary. And being a doctor, I know there's a lot of different causes for that, but I realized like I had to listen to, like God was sending me these speakers, or whatever, the universe was sending me these speakers to educate myself on how to take care of my body. So a lot of it was really simple. It was getting proper amounts of water, like really, clean water, to flush out my system, because a lot of people are dehydrated, and that's going to help for your immune system. And a lot of dietary changes that I wasn't implementing, but I was telling people to eat more vegetables, but I was myself very acidic, and I was creating this environment that was good for infection. And I mean, just changing my diet, drinking more water with electrolytes actually calmed the inflammation down. Of course, I took antibiotics, but I learned my lesson not to take them because it caused other problems. But I realized a lot of the disempowerment we have around our own health, the fears I had too. And so the secret to boosting your immune system is in your lymphatics and making sure that they're flowing. And lymphatics are so important for our immune system. And I realized I wasn't sweating enough. I wasn't moving enough. I wasn't drinking enough water. I was clogging all of those lymphatic channels, which are so important for our immune system to fight infection in the breast tissue, in our neck, all of that. And I'm not saying that I was really puffy before, but it really, like, just changing those things drains all of the excess fluid. And I think that is the secret to looking younger. And the summit covers a lot of different topics, and it's my research project, but you don't have to go to medical school to learn from these people. I think that each person came to me for a reason, and to be able to share it is so important. It's free. Everyone can join from May 4th to May 21st. All you have to do is go to antiagingvirtualretreat.com and then sign up from there. I've learned so much from this process, from experiencing the actual application of the expert's advice. And I'm so grateful I had this experience with you, Colleen, to share it with other people.
Yeah, thank you. And I thank you for coming today completely vulnerable and sharing your experience as a doctor through this, because I think what you just did is by you sharing that story, you gave those listening to you permission to understand that even as a doctor, you weren't listening to your own advice, right? So it's so important that if we're giving that advice to other people or sharing that information with other people, that we're also taking that advice and making sure that we practice what we preach, right? That we are that example every day.
Yeah, and to not give into fear. And I realized, like, in the end of the day, my biggest fear was, getting sick or getting cancer. And what I realized is when I said, whatever happens, it doesn't matter. I have the resources that I can use to the techniques and tips, all of the things that I was given during the summit. I'm like, I have everything I need, regardless of what we are exposed to or what we get diagnosed with. It doesn't matter. And when you're disempowered by a diagnosis or fear that you have something, like, I realized I was frozen. I wasn't moving. Yeah. And when I started listening to these experts, I was like, oh my God, I could do all of these things. And I stopped being afraid. I stopped being afraid of whatever disease might happen, because things happen in the world and we can't just stop moving. We have to find a solution. And this is what the summit is. It's a solution, different
Perfect.
solution.
Yeah, so I welcome everyone to go. Say it one more time, Dr. Carolyn Candido. What was the name of the summit?
Antiagingvirtualretreat.com.
Perfect.
And get all the information on the website.
Yeah, and we'll put all the information on our Facebook page as well. So anyone who's listening to this podcast that maybe hasn't joined us on our social media outlets, I definitely recommend that you go to our Facebook page, Lead Up for Women, and you go ahead and like that page. That way you can see this video. Click on her link. It's a free summit. Why wouldn't we want to get 21 experts over the course of 20 days to be able to share with you what you can do to get moving and how you can boost your immune system, right? It's just free information. And as I've been sharing with everyone, take advantage of all of the free information that's coming to you to learn more. Take this time to learn. So thank you for being with us, Carolyn. Stay with us. And please feel free to jump in on the conversation as we move through the podcast today. But I would like to now introduce our two guests that we have. We have Jena Rodriguez, who's a transformational mentor and growth strategist. And then we also have Wendy Yates with us. And she is the founder of retreats. So she does do well-fit human retreats, but then she's also the founder of Abigail-Elise Design Studio, which I think is awesome. And I can't wait to get into that conversation. So ladies, welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So Jena, I wanted to start with you. And I want to thank you for having me on your podcast, Brave Masters. You know, so much of what you stand for and how you help women and move forward is so aligned with what Lead Up for Women is about and why we're all doing what we're doing, right? Is to serve others and help others live their best life. So, you know, you help top women leaders and their corporate teams. And when CEOs are plateaus, you're able to really help them, you know, change some major radical changes, right? And be super brave in those changes. And I love your outsmart your ego, right? How do you outsmart your ego? I always say leave your ego at the door, right? But how do you outsmart your ego? So I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit about your nugget of expertise and creative genius that you have been giving, and you know, really how you got here. You weren't always this Jena Rodriguez, right? So what happened? How did you get here?
What did happen? That's the question. You know, I'll start with this. It's interesting. This week, or within the last 5 days, I got a Facebook message from my college, so I went to college at 16. But simultaneously getting, you know, high school credit. So it was simultaneous. Anyway, so my point is I call her my college volleyball coach, because I was in the volleyball team. I was a part of it. And she reached out and I say this because it's taking me back, you know, that's 20 plus years or whatever. And she goes, man, I found you, you know. She was all excited to find me and on Facebook. Right. And my name's changed. I got married, you know, so my name's changed and they couldn't find me that way. And she goes, I was always a little worried about you. And I was like, I get that, you know, but it's like, it's such a fleeting memory of how much I struggled. And the circumstance, I mean, I don't forget the circumstances, but for someone to reflect to me how far I've come. And she was looking through my website and she's like, oh my gosh, you know, she's like, I always wondered what you would end up as, and you're doing such amazing things. And she was just very proud of me. And that was really, I mean, I could cry. Right. But I share that because I was like reminded how far I've come, but more importantly, I think how far we all come through our lives and our evolution and our if we choose it, you know, we can stay stuck, we can stay in the same habits and patterns and not outsmart the ego, right, and let it run our lives. And anyway, I just share that because yes, I've come from a pretty survival mode upbringing, and then I found my way and I just took the next brave step. And it was, you know, first it was brave by survival, then it was brave by choice, where I really started to learn how to create my own reality, to change my reality, because my reality wasn't so desirable as you know, a teenager and in my youth. And so, you know, and now what's so powerful and where I've come to, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 14 years now. I was in corporate America and figured that out. And I was a controller for 8 years. Before that, I was in makeup artistry and fashion design. So I've done all kinds of things, finding my way. And so 14 years as an entrepreneur, what I know is that I love, number one, leading. I love working for myself and having those freedoms and choices. And yet it's also the biggest personal development course you'll ever take, right? Mm-hmm. And so here I am in my next iteration. And over the last year and a half, Brave by Purpose has been now the evolution phase that I'm in. And what that means is I'm really connected and called to do something for the highest good, you know, like just use me as a vehicle. Right? Use me as a vehicle. So I thank you for having me here and being a part of this conversation. I think it's important that we, you know, if we're called to do that, then speak up and share. And Carolyn, I just love that you're doing the summit, you know, and being actually the student as well as the teacher. And that's who I am. Like, I am going to go through the fire for you. I'll be the OG Brave Master forever. I'm gonna, you know, I'll take the lead if I have to, but it's not always the easy way. It's the brave way, right? And so, yeah, the thing that I speak to a lot right now, especially in our climate, is, you know, outsmarting our egos is how we empower ourselves and how we self-lead. And so if we can elevate our self-leadership and elevate our emotional intelligence and elevate our you know, connection to source and all of those things, then we're more in alignment. We are less stressed, which affects the body, which that's why I was like, I love what Carolyn's doing, because, you know, it all ties together. And right now, I think it's really important that we align with our higher selves, not our egoic self. And how do we do that, right? And of course, that's the thing. The strategies I dive into is how do we outsmart the ego. But yeah, this journey of mine has definitely been a windy road, and I wouldn't expect anything less. Those valleys have allowed me to be here, and we're in another valley potentially, right? And yet I'm excited about you know, the top of the peak of the mountain. It's like, what is this going to bring? How is it going to show up for me and others, and who am I becoming because of it? So I just call it preparation. I think we've all set a lot of intentions and a lot of vision and, you know, and things like that have been put out in the universe. And this is your preparation to have that. So embrace it, right? Embrace it.
So Jena, tell me, why do you do what you do? You talked a little bit about your path, but I want to know why. Why do you work, you know, with CEOs? What have you seen that you are looking for? Obviously a change somewhere, but why do what you do?
Yeah, so I always say that my stand in the world is to eradicate unrealized human potential. And I start with me, right? Like like I said, I'm going to be the one next to you, not in front of you, right? And so why it's so important to me is, number one, just as my college volleyball teacher pointed out, is that I knew and I believe every single one of us has so much potential, and yet we let our circumstances knock us down, or we let them define us. And I did early on, and I have spent my life figuring out how to transform myself and my reality, and knowing there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. Because, like, you know, coming from, you know, divorce and then domestic violence in the household for 5 years, me moving out at 14, struggling, surviving. There was a moment where I was homeless and couch hopping, and, you know, I'm like, there's got to be a better way, right? I know you and I can relate. And I was like, this is not what my whole life is meant to be. And so for me, my passion comes from not only me walking through the fire and figuring it out and going, wow, look how far you can go, right? And I'm not even done, right? Clearly I'm not done. And so first it starts with my family unit. Like I wanted a different life for my daughters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my children. And so if I'm going to be an example for them.
Okay, Jena, so let's get back to talking about how you're going to be the example for them, and then we'll catch up on what you were talking about. So you were talking about how you were going to be an example for them. So let's go ahead and start right there.
Yep, I just saw the internet interruption.
No big deal.
Yeah, sorry. So yes, I want to be an example for my children and my family, and so that was the first ripple effect that I knew. I wanted her life to be different. Hold on, am I frozen?
No, you're good.
So when I saw that I could impact my family and my children, then I was like, how much more who else can I impact? And I just see the transformation lights me up. When I can see the before and after. I did it with makeup artistry. I did it with fashion. I did it with, business strategy. But then I started seeing business strategy is insufficient if you aren't working out the mindset and the emotional set, as I call it. And so now it's 90% of the game is between our ears, and it's in our bodies, and it's our emotions, and it's our behavior and choices. And so that's where, I've moved into more transformational work. And I've been in personal development since I was a teenager. And now with that training and that path, I feel like I can give that back to people now. And it's important for me, the leaders that we are, the CEOs, the business owners, if we can impact those that are already positioned to lead, then they can impact others. My mission is to impact 1 million people. Well, what I know is if I impact 1 million people, then they will impact another 10 million, right? And then we've started to cover the planet.
Absolutely. And I talk a lot about that as, when you're called to be a leader, or when you step into your tapped potential and you're holding that lamp, right, of light, and you've got, I picture it like an oil in a lamp. Your responsibility in that position is not to take the oil from others' lamps, to continue to keep yours lit. Your responsibility is to go help them light their lamps. And that's how we get the ripple effect of how we can affect others. And I want to go back and anchor in what you talked about with why you're doing what you're doing. And one of the things you said was how we can tap into our untapped potential and eradicate that. So what is a step, someone listening right now that has a disbelief of themselves that I can't be more than I am, right? I just have this job at corporate, and that's all I'll ever be. And even though I want to do all these other things, I don't have the money. Here's the number one things. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I can't leave my job because I have a responsibility to pay for all my bills. I hear this all the time.
Yes.
And so I can't leave and support everyone, and it would be selfish of me to do so. That becomes a choice. It's not that you can't and that you couldn't explode that and make that work and be wildly successful. You're choosing to not even open the door and step down the path.
Right.
So how do you, when you're working with someone, give me a mindset mastery tool, that just one that you use with a client for somebody listening today that can take that nugget that you give them and practice that every day.
Absolutely. And it is practice every minute, every day, right? So what I recommend is first recognizing what I call the ego tricks going on. Knowing that which voice is talking, because the one we're empowering on autopilot through the I can't is an ego trick. And so when we start to see the ego trick versus our higher self, like that's not what our higher self would say. It's what our critical mind and our egoic mind would say. And so I've got 14 actual ego tricks identified, and they fall into what my 4 egoic archetypes. So I can share with you how you can get access to those. But the first one you're saying is I can't. I can't. If you know that that's an ego trick, number one, it starts to create the separation between who I am and my ego, right? Your ego is this thing that's trying to protect you. It's not going to go away. It is your friend. It is your buddy, but we've given it way too much power. And so outsmarting it is first recognizing the trick that it's playing. And I can't is a trick. It's a limitation. It's a brick wall. It's a procrastination tool. It's an avoidance tool. And then when we see the signals of the ego tricks playing us, and we start to separate them from the higher self that we are, the one that has the vision, the one that has the desires, that, you know, it's like, I believe in Gus, God, universe, source. And so Gus gives you those desires, you know, in my belief. I believe they're provided to us, they're downloaded, right? And they're given to us. I don't have all the desires, you know, you or someone else has. I have mine. And so if those are my unique desires, then why are they there? And our ego is simply trying to protect us from the uncertainty, the uncomfortable, the fear of dying, right? And or disintegrating in thin air, you know, like it just wants to keep us safe. And if that's the tool, that's the first practice, is to go, okay, is that an ego trick going on? That's the first thing to figure out. And so the moment we bring our unconsciousness, called I believe that I can't is who I am, to what I call above the line, into our consciousness. And now we know that it's an ego trick, right? We know it's something that's not who we are. Then we can start to look at it differently. Then we can like experiment and explore it and, you know, look at it from different angles and go, why is this here? What do I need to know about this ego trick that's signaling me?
Yeah.
And so it becomes more of a, you know, a game a little bit, you know, with ourselves. So we don't have to be so connected and so ingrained in the belief that it's who we are. And so I can't is a big one. The moment you say those words, just know immediately you have an ego trick going on, and there's a source to that ego trick, and it's a fear, it's an attachment, it's something else. And that again, I can definitely provide the detachment method if you want to figure it out.
Yeah, no, I definitely want you to do that. And we're going to talk about how our listeners can get in contact with you. And I know you have so many free offers, so we'll talk about that in a second. But I want to go back and just make it very clear what we're saying is acknowledging the negative self-talk, basically. So when you hear the negative self-talk, acknowledge it and then flip it around. So I can't, you got to flip it around to say either I don't want to, I won't, right? If you don't want to, that's a different story than you saying I can't, because that's false. When somebody says, I think, blah, 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 I always like to go back and say, no, I know. If it's your opinion, you know this based on your opinion, right? So you're kind of grounding that into what you're saying. So I hear it all day long from people, negative self-talk. So whenever you'll listen for it in other people, and maybe start working on correcting it with other people, especially your children. If you hear them start saying, you know what I used to say all the time? I'm clumsy, I'm not creative.
Yeah, and you'll be right.
All the time. I knock over everything. And then when I say I'm not creative, people are like, why would you say you're not creative? Like, look at the stuff you've created. I'm like, ooh, maybe I am creative. I used to say that all the time. I believed it in my head that you're convincing yourself, right? That's so that one nugget today that I love what Jena talked about was to trick that ego. You've got to first recognize this negative self-talk. And that's the one thing I want you to work on this week. Recognize your negative self-talk, and when you hear it, flip it around, because that's going to change your life. Just that one thing.
Well,
just that one thing.
How can I is another hack. I call it a hack, right? Like, so I can't, you hear it, and then you know it's an ego trick, so you're like, want to look at it differently. And the question to then ask is, how can I? How can I? Or what can I do? Especially right now, like, what can I do?
Yeah.
That'll empower you.
And Jena, go ahead very quickly and tell everybody your free offer for our community. We're going to put all this information in the comment section under the video as well. So if you're listening on the podcast, again, I do encourage you to go out to get a lot of these free offers and connect with them. But Jena, tell everyone how they can connect with you. Spell it out so everyone listening knows how to connect with you, and then what your offer is today for the community.
That would be awesome. So thank you. Bravemasters.com, of course, is the website. And then if you want the 14 ego tricks and the detachment method helps you get out of them and get, outsmart it, is the bravemasters.com/the method. THEMETHOD.
The method. Pretty easy.
It's a method.
Yeah. And she'll put that in the comment section as well. And Jena, I want to thank you again for being here, for being, an expert in this community. You have so much to bring a community of, when things are in our rearview mirror and they're not in our windshield anymore. Those are the experts that you want to listen. Those are the experts that you want to engage with. Those are where we learn our lessons. And I've said this probably every show. If learning is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. Please recognize that.
Yeah.
Please recognize that we are always learning. And this is another learning opportunity for us that we're going through now. 100%. So Jena, thanks for being with us. It's what you brought today, and we really need to outsmart those egos.
Yeah.
Completely, right? Yeah. So thanks for being with us. Stay with us. So I'm going to go ahead and slide over to Wendy. And I just met Wendy like a few months ago, and we were introduced to each other. And I love what you do, Wendy, in your world. And where are you? I don't remember where you were located. What state?
Actually, Carolyn, I'm originally from Honolulu. So I love that you're there, and I'm super jealous because I'm in Colorado, which has been my home base for about 18 years, but I was born and raised in Honolulu. So, and I travel back to Hawaii, mostly to the Big Island because the family that I'm closest with lives in Kona now. But
yeah.
Anyway, so congratulations on being in Hawaii, but I am currently in Colorado, which is also a lovely place to be.
Yes, it is. And I always said if I didn't live in Arizona, that would be the one state I would move to because they have the mountains still. You have all the seasons, and it's just gorgeous. So I think it's like Arizona on steroids, actually. But I can't get my husband to move because all of our grandkids are here. So, that's just the way it's going to be. All right. So, Wendy, tell us a little bit about, your interior design studio that you have. And, when someone hears she owns a design studio and then she does welfare human retreats, like, can someone tell me how did those intertwine? So I would love to hear why, both of those, like tell us a little bit about your passions. And obviously you are majorly creative to be able to have an interior design studio. So what is an interior design studio? What does that mean for someone? Because I know interior design can set a whole mood of a room, right? It can have so much effect on our well-being, but I would love for you to intertwine that for us and tell us, why you got where you got to and why you do what you do.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. And also I want to just say, Jena, your story is super inspiring and relatable, and everything you talked about with mindset is very much in line with sort of what brought me to diversifying and adding Wealth at Human as another company that I run and founded. And so I have been in design and owned my design studio, started taking it very serious. Did design through my 20s. I sort of was similar to, I think, maybe what Jena was talking about. I was kind of like all over the place. I did a lot of different things. I sort of did design on the side, but I'd also sort of made bad choices. And so really didn't get anywhere. And then I had my daughter in 2005. And then in 2007, I moved from a small town in Colorado up to the mountains of Colorado and decided, okay, what am I going to focus on when I grow up? And so rebranded my design firm, took it more seriously, and sort of, spent a lot of time investing in it, and started it with $0. I totally bootstrapped it. My car had broken down when we moved here. I got divorced. My daughter was going on 2 years old. And so I just sort of went for it, and it was so I started in 2008, sort of really taking design seriously. And I had some experience working in Hawaii, sort of flying back and forth in my 20s, working in development design. So I focus on development design, which is neighborhoods, communities. And so we do the interiors from plumbing to tile to furnishings and whatnot. And we take the approach of really working organically to create more of a lifestyle design. And so we really create a relationship with our developers, with the people buying into the property. And with that, I did work really hard and sort of rode the roller coaster of entrepreneurship for the last 10 years, staying focused in my tunnel, not having time for social life. I've got to build this business because I want to do all this good in the world, right? Like if I get to this point where I've got this business really running and it makes this much money, I can go do all this good volunteer, great stuff that I want to do, right? But that's actually not the way it works, So never, you get to one point and then you want to go to the next point. And so I found myself at 40 years old, I'm 43 now, super, super lonely. Just, my husband's amazing. I have one daughter. She's amazing. She's a teenager now. Beyond just the regular stresses of going up and down in entrepreneurship, you're making money, you're not making money, you're investing money here, you're investing money in these people, whatever it is a lonely road. And I was like, why does it have to be? Like, why does it have to just be me focused on this? And why can't I also do good at the same time? Why do I have to wait? And where can I find my people like that love to travel, want to do good, and want to build their businesses too? And how can I add value to them? And how can we share in that? And, quite honestly, for the last 10 years, I had been so focused on growing my business, not sort of really, it was that sort of mindset shift that I was like, I can be more than one thing at one time. Besides, obviously the mother, the wife, the sister, the daughter, and so through that loneliness, I just was at a workout class, which typically for me at a workout class, I would not talk to anybody. I hate small talk. I'd be so focused. I just want to get in here, I want to get out and get on with, something relevant. And, just sort of reclusing myself off. And that was contributing to the loneliness factor, is not just being open to just every and any conversation, just feeling I had to get these things done and move on to the next thing to stay focused in order to be successful. And so when I was at this class, I was like, why don't I just create something that fuels my passion and my joy, which design does, because I do love creating, but I'm not passionate about home decor or, and I know this is not what a lot of other designers might say, but it's just truly how I feel. I'm not so obsessed with, the lines of a sofa or whatever. But I do love to create, and I love to give, and I love to provide, and I love to inspire. And so through design, I'm able to do that, especially in development design, because we can see something, through the thought process of concept to schematic, and I'm a very sort of process-driven person too, and then a result-driven person. So the result is where I find the gratification, and then in building the relationship. And so we stay, the people that I work with, I've worked with for years, and I work with them over and over and over again, and I get a lot of satisfaction in building those relationships. So back to the Wealth at Human, I wanted to travel. I wanted to find like-minded people. I wanted to start giving back, immediately that day when I decided, why is it taking me so long to get to a place where I can have the time and the resources to volunteer? Because you think you have to have a certain set of resources before you can actually be of value. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously not the case. Again, the mindset shift of really recognizing that mindset is everything. And so I just started, I wanted to be about wellness. I want to include fitness. I want to include travel, and I want to create experiences where there's a personal impact for the traveler, mm-hmm. or a positive impact for the traveler, and then personal growth for the traveler and a positive impact to where we're going. So, I looked for small towns in rural areas of other countries. Our first one was in the Dominican Republic. We went to a small town called El Valle, which is only 30 minutes from a big city who has running water and electricity, but El Valle, it's considered a poor community. And so the country doesn't give them those resources. And so we went, the idea is that we're traveling with our health coaches, our personal development coaches, from fitness to wellness to, mental health, and providing some volunteer work on specific projects, be it with helping build schools, be it with volunteering. It's a lot with children, in those types of areas, because just knowing that other people in the world care, and also just immersing yourself in that culture. And then the days are sort of scheduled also to include a fitness regimen, mental health, and again, personal development work. And we do all the food is all prepared in house. It's all nutrition based around our physical activity for the day. So it's got a lot of different aspects. And currently, it's been evolving. It's been evolving beyond the retreats to also community. We do a cocktail and conversation, which is like a free virtual event. It was free before in person, where we would have 12 to 15 people come to dinner, and they didn't know each other, and have meaningful conversation. So not just small talk, but a topic of conversation where everyone got to share on their opinion of that topic. And then with that, we would have also a motivational speaker, not really a speaker, but a storyteller, I guess, if you will, sort of on how they built whatever they're building or how they're in the process. And so that community has been extremely just empowering for my heart, because it is a platform where we can come together and inspire each other. And it is usually women, although men are invited. So it's just sort of taken on beyond retreats to creating community, and also forcing me to look for people like you, beautiful women, and organizations that I'm like, oh, wow, like these things do exist. Like, why did it take me so long? My main passion was always fueled by inspiring others and helping people, just, live their best life. I know that's such a cliche term, but it really is in my heart. And how was I going to do that if I was, just focusing on interior design? So, we bridged lifestyle design with how you live in your space, how you take up space, how you hold space for others. And that translates to, what do you spend your time doing? Where are you traveling to? How are you creating an experience? Are you just going on a vacation? Are you doing something relevant and meaningful in your also engagement in being able to travel? And, travel is just something that I just personally love to do. And it was kind of that same thing. I'm like, why am I just going here, not meeting anybody, not really making any new friends? I'm traveling across the world and just living in my little thing. So that is sort of a roundabout, not super structured way to share that story.
No, it's great. It's great. And I think the way that you shared the story helps us understand more who Wendy is, right? So, it sounds, from what I heard, is you've learned, you are really, by example, getting into uncomfortable territory regularly, so that you can continue growing and stretching yourself, because you can go on those trips by yourself. You could do whatever design it is that you wanted to do and not talk to people or not engage with others, and go to the gym and not have a conversation or engage with a community. But because you have this desire that just keeps bugging at you, right? Your intuition is like, there's more for you if you would just have conversations with other people and search out communities and bring more people into your fold. And I wanted to circle around about how important, let's just really put a spotlight on this, how important your surroundings are. Can we all agree here on this podcast that how we create our surroundings and what we have around us helps us feel a certain way, right? Because if we all sat in a dungeon every day that was cold and had gray bars and no furniture, I think our attitudes would look a little bit different than the attitudes are when we wake up and get out of our comfy beds and put our feet on the ground, right? So how important is our environment. How important is, I live in a master plan community. So props to you for building a vision in a community with buildings and the way the layout is and how people function within those communities. That adds life to people. It actually adds years to their life. What we're talking about today with Dr. Carolyn Candido, with Jena Rodriguez, and Wendy Yates is all about kind of the whole big picture, right? How do you take care of your body by what you put into your body, exercising? How do you take care of your body by experiences and traveling to other parts of the country that you haven't been and learning and getting outside of that comfort zone? And how do we experience our surroundings? And how does changing your surroundings make a difference? And then how does the talk of what we say to ourselves mess with us every day, right? These all need to be in sync for what we're doing. And we can't do it alone. Wendy, you just made that point so clear. Even Carolyn did when she started talking about how, you know, she was trying to do it on her own and not listening to what all of the experts were saying. And then when she decided, oh, wait, I got to start doing what these experts are telling me to do. And I'm a doctor, I know this. Changes their life. So it isn't about isolation. Doesn't matter if we're quarantined or not. It's not about isolation. It's about continuously having these conversations and having those coaches, having those that community with you, and creating your own community of people like you did, right? There was something that told you to create this community.
Yeah, I think by creating it, and again, sort of changing my mindset to how I wanted to really live and how I wanted to spend, what, if you will, the second half of my life, at least that's how I viewed it at that time, is yes, I didn't want to give up, sort of a platform I had created success through and built relationships through, but I just wanted it to be more meaningful. And so transitioning it to create more of a lifestyle design where it incorporates, yes, absolutely, the environment you create and the culture you build within your home and your own life. Why isn't that intertwined and shared in building community? And I think by me starting, I'm really sort of an introverted extrovert, and I think that was part of the problem. If I have control of the story, I'm really extroverted. If I'm brought to the table, I find myself, again, lack of self-confidence, a different sort of person, less willing to share whenever, at least this was, I've sort of had this evolution over the last couple of years where I feel more comfortable. And that's why I wanted to start engage. I think me creating that community let me see that I didn't have to always be in charge of the inspiration, that I needed to be inspired as well. And then that led me to seeking out, saying it's okay, like people want to receive you. And that would be my message too for everyone wants to receive you and accept you, and you're enough how you are. And I think the step of putting yourself out there and being vulnerable is something that, a lot of us just weren't raised with being okay doing, and so as you get older, you find yourself in a place and, there's all this depression and, just lifestyle choices that you make that you think you're the only one. And so I think for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to start my own thing. And by doing that, now I'm so open to being okay, being on the other side, you know what I mean? Not being so introverted when it's someone else's show, I'm like, I feel more comfortable because I've asked other people to be comfortable sharing with me. So if that makes any sense. But so lifestyle design is all, yes, your space and your culture, but also how you live, who you interact with, who you engage with. And I'm so grateful to now be part of the Lead Up community. So thank you.
Oh, we're so happy to have you here. And I want to acknowledge the bravery it takes, it's courageous and it's bravery to show up vulnerable. It's not weakness. And in my 30 plus years in corporate America, it was taught, and I was raised, it was taught emotions, when you show your emotions, when you're vulnerable. And this is part of my story, which is, we are scared. And so we see it as something that's weak. It's so courageous and takes so much courage to be vulnerable, and for you to share with us today that when you do get in these situations that stretch you beyond your comfortable zone, your self-talk starts and you start feeling insecure, your confidence isn't there. And so let's acknowledge that that happens to all of us. It happens to Oprah Winfrey, people. It happens to everybody. You aren't born a person that automatically is going to just be that confident, fearless person that steps into the world and can conquer anything. It takes work. It takes being able to strip away all the disbeliefs, but then practicing it every day. It takes understanding how to take care of our bodies. It's a lot of work. Oprah Winfrey came from a very poor circumstance of sexual abuse. So why did she become Oprah Winfrey and the neighbor is still in that same neighborhood?
That's right.
It's choice. It's who wants it more. Who decided that they believe that they deserve it? That, like my sign says behind my head on that side, you mentioned it, Wendy, like, I am enough. And by the way, anybody that believes in God, he did not make you incorrectly. He made you perfectly. So for you to say, I'm not enough, then you're basically saying God screwed up. Sorry, you made me wrong. No, I don't think I would ever be saying that, right? You know, but what happens is from the moment we're born, and Dr. Carolyn Candido would know this, we get what's called an APGAR score. Pisses me off. Every one of my grandkids, my husband's like, what's their APGAR score? And I like almost was in tears when my last grandson was born because he asked that question. And I was like, he's been breathing for 30 seconds in the outside world, and they just judged him and gave him a number from 1 to 10. Yeah. That is going to continue their entire life. Now it's just a matter of, you can't control the outside world. We just talked about that, Wendy. You talked about it, Jena talked about it, and Carolyn talked about it. We can't control what happens to us. We can only control how we respond to it and if it's happening for us. So I like to use the I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off of me, sticks back on you. I just use the elementary term to help people visually realize if somebody's coming at you with judgment, it has nothing to do with you. All you can do is hear what's here. And the mind is powerful. The mind will break down your body. Am I not right, Carolyn? The mind will cause stress, yes, which will lower your immune system. Self-talk will make you feel less confident. Your environment, if it sucks, and if it is not comfortable for you, and it doesn't work for you, and you're not in a community that you love, what happens? We just shrink back to being small and we don't move forward. So Wendy, I believe your message was so strong about why it's so important for what you do for people. And I'm so thankful that you created these retreats. And I definitely want to partner with you moving forward on how we can provide these for the community to be able to participate in that. So if someone needed to reach out to you today, you know, to be able to chat with you more about your retreats or about your interior design, how would they reach you?
So we have a couple of websites. I recommend emailing me directly, just Wendy at aeinteriorsinc.com. Our Well Fit Human website is wellfithuman.com. We are also on Instagram and Facebook, and our design platform website is aeinteriorsinc.com. But I love to connect with people. So if you shoot me an email, I love jumping on a call, just having a conversation. It's just brought me so much joy to build relationships and friendships and not be alone, and also be that to somebody else. So again, Wendy at aeinteriorsinc.com is my personal email.
She just offered to be your friend, everybody. So why wouldn't you reach out to Wendy, right? And that's probably why I reached out to Wendy, because she wanted to be my friend. So this is how you meet people. So don't be afraid to, you know, there's some strong lessons today in what we discussed about how it's not just one thing, but how every step that you take, if you just try something new, get a little uncomfortable until that becomes comfortable, and then stretch a little bit more to get uncomfortable again, we will continue growing. And we're not born a certain way. Usually it is our environment, the things that do happen to us when we haven't been able to make the choices when we were younger. I was abused for 12 straight years before my parents got divorced, right? And then that spiraled into even more abuse as I was older and as an adult. Those were the choices I was making. So you can disrupt this spiral and you can change your life. You just have to want to. You have to want to reach out to someone and be their friend. You have to want to squash your negative self-talk and trick your ego, right? You have to want to master that for yourself. So I think the choices are pretty strong today in what the women have. And I want to thank all of you for joining us. This was a super strong conversation about how we make our own choices, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will invite all of you to put your comments on Facebook again for you to reach out to Wendy. Wendy, what was your social media outlet name that we were finding you under?
So my personal one is just W.A. Yates.
W.A. Yates. Okay.
And then, of course, all the company sites that I mentioned have
Okay.
their own, but my personal one is W.A. Yates. So.
Okay, and we could private message you there. And Jena, how does somebody find you on social media?
Yeah, mostly Jena Rodriguez with one N, Jena.
Jena.
Jena, not two. And then otherwise Brave Masters.
Brave
So
Masters.
My handles are Jena Rodriguez.
Very easy. And then Carolyn, how can we reach you on social media? Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. Can hear you now.
Oops. Nope.
Nope. Now you're back on mute. There we go.
Okay. On Facebook under Dr. Carolyn Candido. I think it's / Dr. Candido, or you can look up Carolyn Candido. So there's the first
And
one
it's,
that.
yeah, it's Carolyn, spelled just like my mother-in-law's name. So just making sure everyone knows that.
Candido, Candido. But yeah,
Perfect.
so facebook.com / Dr. Candido.
Perfect. And we're easy to find because everything and where we are is Lead Up for Women. So that's all you need to do to look for us on all of our social media. And I just want to thank you ladies again for being with us today. And I wanted to welcome our next week's guest on May 6th. We have Alice Combs. Okay, she wrote a book called The Lady with Balls. Just to give you an idea of who my guest is next week. So she founded Vulcan wire. It's the wire used around like crates and pallets and stuff. I swear. They called her the Lady with Balls. So she is freaking awesome. There's so much we can learn from her. And then I also have Dr. Anita Sanchez. Now, she's the author of 4 Sacred Gifts, which is an indigenous wisdom for modern times. And she's a trainer and a speaker. She has so much to teach us next week. So I want to invite all of you to join me for my next episode when we interview them. And just want to sign off by saying, remember, you are the only you that has ever been, and you are the only you that will ever be. So think about that for a minute. How you pioneer your future is up to you. So be you and be strong, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Amazing.